Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, we're going to do things a little bit differently than usual. I've been talking a lot about tempo reconstruction and sources and what have you. I made comparisons, but now we're going to focus more and more on interpretation. Well, interpretation, that's a broad thing. You know, what is interpretation? It's my interpretation, sir. Well, we look at the score, right? And there are some things that Seymour Bernstein would say, the famous Seymour Bernstein, like they're written in stone. And so this is not to criticize anyone. Every musician does what he or she wants with the music that she's playing or he's playing. But we all care about the intention of the composer, right? And talking about tempo is one thing. Tempo sets the floor, changing tempos, changing everything. But there are way more things on top of that that are influenced by the tempo. And when you take a too rapid tempo at the beginning, which today almost by definition is done, and few cases are an exception, but anyways, then there must be compromises. And that's interesting to talk about, because then we are in the world of interpretation. What do you do with that choice of tempo? You have chosen a tempo, well, what's the consequence? What is the correlation with the score that you're playing? And today we're going to dive into this prelude here by Chopin. I've mentioned that before a few months ago, but this is a good starting point for this potentially new series. You let me know how you like that. And we're going to have a look at Yuja Wang's performance, live performance. You can take this performance as like a blueprint for many other performances. And she's also interesting because she's pushing the boundaries of tempo very often. And so we see the compromises that in other cases, we're going to have a quick look, if we still have time, the video is not too long, to Pollini. Pollini is a little bit more moderate in his tempo, but there are the same issues that actually we will hear with Yuja Wang's performance. And then at the end, I will show you, or we listen together to Alberto's version, Chopin. So this is Bandcamp. You can listen on Bandcamp 3 times for free. And by the way, this is our new Beethoven Keyboard Works Volume 1. It's now on Bandcamp for you. So go over to Bandcamp and just listen to, 9 CDs. It's 10 hours and more of recording material. So you can listen to it 3 times for free and then decide if something for you. So we're going to do all of that. But before we do that, do me a big favor. Subscribe to this channel. It helps me big time, and also helps YouTube pushing these videos more regularly to other people who can benefit from the things that I'm saying, hopefully. And also, much love to my patrons. They make it possible that I record these videos for free for you. Okay, with this out of the way, let's have a look at Chopin's Prelude in E minor. And this is an incredible piece, of course. It's not easy. And it's not easy for several reasons. It seems to have conflicting signs. Like, for instance, you have an alla breve sign. Here, people say, okay, that's double the tempo, so that needs to be very fast. But you have largo on top of it. So why would you use an alla breve sign and have a largo on top? If your intention as a composer is, okay, let's have double the tempo and then let's slow it down by the Italian tempo word, right? Now, how do pianists handle this? And now it gets really interesting. I'm not going to pull up the playing because we're going to follow the score. So I have Yuja Wang here on my other screen. What I want you to pay attention to is tempo stability. And now some people say, like, but Chopin, it's all about tempo rubato, and you can do whatever with the music you want. We know that because, that's not so clear. This tempo stability, like, I'm not talking about metronomically playing. That's a different thing. Metronomically stable means you're just playing in time. You have a tempo and you stick to that. And within that tempo, you can do a lot of things. You can have accentuations, which you can prolong some notes to make an accent, things like that. You can have accentuations, you can have micro timings, but all in general, you should be able as a listener to follow the pulse of the piece. That's something, again, like Seymour Bernstein would say, that's written in stone. You have several sources. In fact, all the piano schools of that time, and even Chopin's students, talked about tempo stability. The left hand, Chopin always said famously to his students, is your choir master. So that is rigidly sticking to the initial tempo, and the right hand can just have a little freedom, but needs to come back to the left hand. The left hand is not adjusting its time or its moving forward movement to the right hand. And that's exactly what these days is happening. Why? It's of course a tempo, because this is this is a perfect example to start this with you, because of this series with you, because this music has a lot of like character, a lot of emotion, if you will. There are a lot of elements here that play, but these notes here, they of course are the lamento. And when people stick to a tempo that they initially choose, then this note becomes way too fast. So what are we going to hear? We're going to hear some irregularities in the left hand. And you can say, okay, that's fine with me. I like it. And many people like it because we are used to hear it like that. Almost everybody plays it like that. The question we want to solve here is if that was what Chopin had in mind. So let's listen to Yuja Wang a few bars. I'm going to interrupt her a lot of times. We will see where we end. Okay, so we have now a kind of tempo. Dum, 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 bum, 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 bum. So then the first note, the upbeat, should be dum, ba dum, bing, dun, dun, ding. Listen what she does. It's flat out an additional, wow, almost quarter note. Just listen again. I'm going to let her play a little bit and then we go back to the first note so that you have the tempo in mind. It's very difficult. Why? Because also here in the first bar, already here, this note, she is on the C, she is slowing down. She does it very beautifully. I mean, that's out of the question. And she taps into, like, as I said, like an understanding or like a way of listening to this piece as if we're, as we're used to listen to that. And it's very weird because these days, the listening experience, what we're used to hear, becomes the score. And when you point to the score, oftentimes people say, yeah, but that's not how it's done. Chopin obviously wanted that. No, it's what we actually got used to listen to. So again, you tap the tempo, you try to find out the tempo of Yuja Wang. It's not easy. And like in the title of this video, I have a title in my mind. I mean, can she play in time or something like that? Of course she could. I mean, yeah. Who am I to say that she wouldn't? But in this piece, she's not proving that. So try to find the tempo and then we go back to the beginning. 3, dum, 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 bum, 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 dum, ba, dum, bum, dum, bum, bum. That's the tempo, right? So that's flat out not what Chopin wrote. Why is she doing that? Why is she making that note so much longer? And go and listen to any recording you want. They all do that. Because their expression is in that interval, of course. You set the tone for the entire piece. But like it or not, that first upbeat, everybody plays in whole beat. That's a huge red flag. And now, again, you like it, fine. I don't care what people like. We're all free to like what we want. And performances can stay like this forever if people want that. The only thing is, you're disconnecting yourself from the intention of the composer. And we come back to what we always do here on this channel, the tempo. Because setting the tempo is setting your floor. Changing the tempo is changing everything. And so that tempo floor is too high for the beginning. She's way too much of a musician to not see that or hear that. And so there is the expression, but that doesn't give a player the right, quote unquote, to slow down there. I mean, at the beginning of the piece where the listener actually receives the pulse. Like Czerny says, the listener should always be able to feel the pulse going on, moving forward. It's very annoying. Once you know this, be careful watching this video till the end, because once you know this, you're gonna hear this everywhere and it's like very super annoying. You remove the bottom of a ship when you do that, and the ship will sink once you know that. Okay, we move on, and then you just listen to the left hand, the choir master. Try to tap the tempo. Too late. Slowing down. No, and I'm not saying that on these quarter notes, you cannot do anything. Of course, when you're going to listen to Alberto, he is also sometimes just like, but that's like a microscopic moment, of course. I mean, you can do something, but your tempo, your pulse should be moving on. Okay, and this is a major thing, because in that tempo, it's almost impossible to change that. When she would be playing, I would say, metronomically correct, like just in time, like you would play an 18th century piece of music, like just in time, from the beginning to the end, that this would be unbearable, because that would be a joke, this piece. That would be like, are you trying to, I mean, this piece would sound like as if the player would try to impose like some very like nice, almost joyful feeling. So she needs to do something with that note. And the only way to do that is hold your tempo back. Just push on the brakes. Chopin didn't mark that, and he didn't intend that. Like, again, Seymour Bernstein, I like quoting him for this, like written in stone. Yes, that's written in stone. Chopin's metronome never left his piano. It's not because it was a beautiful device. Probably he used that, and all his students confirm that, not about the metronome, but that like the left hand stable. But it's not over yet. So the conflict with the score based upon the tempo are coming in a few moments, but we're going to listen further. Eighth note 16. I'm gonna scroll back like 5 seconds, or maybe, yeah, okay. Hope that YouTube is not flagging this video because of I'm using so much of her recording. But anyways, eighth note, dotted eighth note 16. That's of course similar to this beginning. So see what she's doing. Pay attention to the left hand, the tempo. I should calculate, but that's close to, it's more than an eighth note in length that she's adding to this bar. I think close to a quarter note. That means that this figure, she's playing in whole beat, because there is, of course, a double expression. It's not just a quarter note, it's also the additional 16th notes. And then we have some other beautiful moment that's coming in a moment. So let's see how she's handling this. This is falling back almost to half tempo. Now she's more extreme than Pollini, because Pollini's tempo is slower. And again, after this video, you go and check all the recordings you want, but you will hear this pattern in all the recordings, and I think even more than she's doing here. She's standing still, flat out here. Let's listen again. Why is she doing that? Because of the music, of course. That's obvious. Okay, then we continue and we have the same pattern here in this place. Let's see how she handles that. This is ritenuto here. This is freestyle tempo. There is no tempo anymore. Like she continues here. That's her tempo. So go back and listen to that bar. We can do it together. That's her tempo. That's a tempo. So almost this is whole beat. So when the music becomes really, really beautiful and like the character of the piece requires you to do something, then people slow down so much that you arrive in a whole, and it's especially in slow movements. How many people have you heard saying or read in the comment section like, okay, but it's not possible. In slow movements, whole beat, everything falls apart. Yes, here in this piece, you have no lines anymore. Well, I have bad news for you. If you care about the lines, I mean, good luck with singing that. even if you play it in her tempo. There is no line in the sense of the modern understanding. Here, you feel the line when it's done, when it's ended, but these notes are long no matter what. When Alberto is playing, you will hear that this note is just like dying before this note comes, but you hear the lamento style. Of course, Chopin had this in mind, and when you slow down here so much, by the way, interesting accentuation mark. So not only accentuation on the half notes, that's another topic. So, but when you slow down here so much that you end up in whole beat, probably that's the tempo that Chopin had in mind. Interesting, right? And then comes something very, very, very strange, because here you have stretto. Of course, there's a lot happening, but stretto, and in this recording, we don't hear that. Let's listen to what we hear and then we break it down. The entire 2 bars. I mean, I didn't measure her, but she played an whole beat. This is she slows down so much. And even if you would end up like a little faster, then the drama and the pathos that is here, that is like completely gone when you would continue the tempo and that she took at the beginning and speed up. I mean, again, written in stone. There is nothing you can say that saves this interpretation, in a sense that it would be possible to connect it to the intention of the composer, as we are seeing here in this score. Nothing. Because stretto is not slowing down. And so, yeah, is this dogmatic in a sense, like going through this score and then say like, but this is wrong, this is wrong? I'm not saying anything is wrong here. I'm just saying if you want to be truthful to the intention of the composer and you start from the score, if you do not reconstruct your tempo, then this is the consequence. You have tons of compromises to make. Now, I don't want to make this video any longer than necessary. So I suggest you go and check Polini and other recordings when you have time. I want to share with you Alberto's performance here. So this is our Bandcamp page. You go and listen to Beethoven Complete Keyboard Works. It's just fascinating stuff. All the variations are there, and you will be stunned. You will be hearing pieces by Chopin, by Beethoven, that you would not think Beethoven composed. So simple music sometimes. But also here's the preludes. We will upload all the Chopin stuff here, the 5 CDs, and we will replace the preludes with that box with 5 CDs, the edges, the scarcity, the ballades, and the preludes. And am I forgetting something? Not sure. And it will say volume 1. So Alberto is recording volume 2, but not in 2 months. He's first finishing all the keyboard works by Beethoven, obviously. So you can listen to these pieces 3 times. You know that. And by the way, a lot of people like these preludes because these are the most popular recording on Bandcamp. It's actually remarkable. So we go here to number 4. This is this one. And I'm going to pull up the score again for you to follow. Now, a few things. The alla breve sign, we talked about that. People will say, but I don't hear alla breve. This is clearly in 4. Well, it's largo. Even if you think in half notes, largo is just the slowest tempo we have. You could say la grave, but they're in competition with each other. It's not always clear. Largo, lento, grave, but it's slower than adagio. So Chopin wrote this piece in a tempo indication that is as slow as you can get. That was clearly not the case in the performance by Yuja Wang, and that's not the case in any performance we hear. So Alberto's taking kulak, metronome marks, for this piece, and he is playing that in whole beat. That gives you a complete different tempo. You have to get used to that. So if your mindset is now like, let's listen how bad it will sound, then of course you will not hear anything. You'll have to give this listening experience a chance. This is an extreme difference. The other thing that's different is there's no use of pedal. Everybody uses the pedal here, everybody. And if you would talk to any pianist or teacher, you would say like, obviously Chopin meant pedal. Well, that's not so obvious. If you study the scores by Chopin, you will see that he has pedal markings, like regular pedal markings, and they're not Chopin's pedal markings. I'm not going to digress here, but it could be another topic for the channel. You let me know if you want me to dive more into that. But they are very difficult to understand. If you combine them with the fingerings that Chopin left and that many of his pupils actually respected, then you come and you run into passages where clearly he didn't want everything legato as we hear it today. But his pedal markings are so meticulously placed. Well, sometimes people say like he's only marking the places where it's not obvious. Well, a lot of places where he marks pedal are obvious. They're obvious. And there is not so much out of the ordinary. But what you can say is that when Chopin didn't mark pedal in the score, he meant no pedal. And at first, when you listen to this Prelude by Alberto, that's like naked. You hear like a sound, or there seems to be no cohesion. But the left hand, if you stick to it a few minutes, it's not double the length of Yuja Wang, by the way. But if you listen to it just like 10 seconds and you sit back and you will listen to it, relax and say like, let's see what happens to me. Don't think, let the music speak to you. Then after 10, 15 seconds, this becomes like a scary piece almost. And the reason why these quarter notes are there becomes so obvious. You will almost start to cry. Chopin hits you time after time again. And after a while, you know what's coming. In the recording by Yuja Wang, you are at the next quarter note before you know it, and then she has to pull the brakes. Here, you have time seeing them coming. And they're destroying your soul. And then you come here to these passages in the stretto, that's a climax now. So I've always to push Alberto a little bit. He's Italian, you know that. But he plays very German. And by the way, in a good way, so strict. Chopin came from that school. We should not forget that. That's the Leipzig Mendelssohn Schumann school. Anyways, let's listen to Prelude number 4 in Alberto's performance. Here it is. So yeah, there you have it. So if you go over the score with this performance, you can see that sometimes don't remember. Like I think here, he also makes something, but that's a microscopic small thing. You could debate that. You could say, okay, I'm not doing that. You just continue. I think there is a good reason to say, okay, don't do anything. But those are little things. The tempo overall is just continuing. And here also for the accent, you heard that he gives a little bit. So Chopin gives room to that or not, that's up for but the tempo overall doesn't change. The stretto, you could argue, okay, go further with it, but they are within the tempo choice that he took, like in this case, Kulak. And then overall, by the way, pedal markings here, most obvious place in the world. Here too, you have the bass note. So why would Chopin mark pedal here and not in the other cases? It's because he doesn't want to have pedal in the other instance in the other bars. So, yeah. So the character of this piece, of course, changes by doing that a lot. And the thing is also, guys, and that's the final point. When you are in this tempo and you listen to performance like that, all things that you add to that tempo floor, like we talked, like a little bit here, a little bit pepper and salt here and there, but that's huge. These things become huge when you play so much faster. What you do, I'm not saying it doesn't matter anymore, but it doesn't matter as much anymore as it does when you play in this tempo that is like. Yeah, you aim for the heart of the piece. So, okay. I think I like doing these kinds of videos where I take you into a score and go from there, with the risk, of course, that people say like, yeah, you criticize these great performance and why are you doing that? Because you cannot play like them. Listen, I cannot play like Yuja Wang. I would not be able to play a quarter of the notes that she can produce during one concert, but that doesn't mean that you cannot watch, you can look at a score and just learn from that and connect that to what the intention of the composer was and just put it next to the performance and see, okay, what do we miss here? Why are there so many compromises in the score? And then you say, okay, that's the tempo. There's no other way. So, okay. That was all I've got for you today. I hope you liked that. Leave it in the comment box. Also, what you think, not only of the format of these kind of new series, kind of like tempo rubato, whatever. I have no idea how I'm going to call that, but more looking in the score and your impressions as well of both performances, and also if you would be looking forward to the Chopin release, because we're working hard on that to make that happen. I'm writing the booklet right now. As you know, I forgot to take the new box. It's at my place. It's not here in the studio, but there's also a booklet of 72 pages again. So I'm enjoying writing those. I had to interrupt my time at writing the book a little bit for that, but that's worth it, I think, because there's also a nice like sequel of booklets that you will get if you buy everything. So that's of course important also, because this is another pillar of what keeps us going. Every time you buy a box like this, you also support the works that we are doing, and we much appreciate that. That's really all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching, and if you're here, leave it in the comment box. I will give it a heart. Thank you for watching. We see each other very soon again. Bye.